Hey, welcome to EPN. My name is Victor Lucas, and we bring you the latest in everything cool every single day, thanks in a large part to our pals at the VFS School of Game Design. Thank you so much, Vancouver Film School. Now, today's rundown is dedicated to Maxim Lamb, who says they love me. We love you too. Here's your rundown. Nintendo doesn't want you to worry about getting your hands on the Super Nintendo Classic. Pre-orders for the tiny retro version of the Super Nintendo sold out in mere seconds when they first became available online last month, leading many to fear that the system would be impossible to find when it actually hit stores. You shouldn't stress about it though, at least that's according to Nintendo of America President Reggie Fils-Aime. In a new interview with the Financial Times, Reggie says that they've dramatically increased production of the SNES Classic, and he strongly urges people to not overbid for the system on auction sites like eBay. This indicates that Nintendo is aiming to have enough units in stores so that everyone who wants to get their hands on one will be able to do so and won't have to resort to paying ridiculous markups to online scalpers. This isn't the first time we've heard this though. Nintendo has been saying this ever since the SNES Classic was announced, promising that it wouldn't be as scarce as last year's NES Classic, but that didn't stop pre-orders from selling out as quickly as they did. Their new system, the Switch, is also still very difficult to find. Just last week, Reggie reiterated Nintendo's promise to increase their manufacturing output of that system, although he wouldn't say if they'll actually be able to make enough to meet demand. Hopefully he's right when he says that the SNES Classic will be easier to find, although given Nintendo's track record, we can't blame people for being a little skeptical. Fans will just have to decide for themselves how much effort they want to put into getting their hands on the SNES Classic. At least one member of the EP staff is planning to line up on opening day, just in case. The SNES Classic hits stores on September 29th. The rundown on September 29th will be late. We still don't know who will be directing Star Wars Episode 9, but we do know who won't be. Disney and Lucasfilm fired Jurassic World director Colin Trevorrow off the new Star Wars project last week amidst reports that the filmmaker was butting heads with studio executives, most notably Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy. There's been loads of speculation about who might replace him, and now one contender has apparently taken himself out of the running. Episode 8 director Rian Johnson, who has been speculated as a possible replacement on Episode 9, has told fans that he doesn't want the job. Speaking at a press conference in Japan, Johnson says that it was never in the plan for him to direct Episode 9 after finishing Episode 8, and he's not sure what's going to happen with the film. He adds that he's completely focused on finishing Episode 8, and he's excited about being an audience member when Episode 9 comes out. I guess that means Disney will have to find someone else, although that doesn't mean Johnson can't change his mind. If the studio does want him back to direct Episode 9, it means that they must be very happy with what they've seen of Episode 8 so far. They've promised to announce a new director soon, and whoever it is will need to start working fast because Episode 9 is already in pre-production. Shooting is slated to begin early next year for a summer 2019 release. In the meantime, Episode 8 hits theaters this December. More than 1 million Guardians have seen the light in Destiny 2. With a new game deploying on the PS4 and Xbox One last week, developer Bungie has revealed that on Saturday morning it saw just over 1.2 million concurrent users. That figure includes players on both the PS4 and Xbox One, although Bungie didn't provide a breakdown of just how many were playing on each system. Either way, it's a very impressive number and indicates that Destiny 2 has already sold millions of copies, and Bungie has thanked fans for their support. Destiny 2 isn't the only new game to tout its number of concurrent players. Last week, the Battle Royale game, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, broke more than 1 million concurrent users for the first time. That's impressive when you consider that unlike Destiny 2, Battlegrounds is only available on one platform, the PC, and it's still in early access and won't release its final version until later this year. As for Destiny 2, expected to rise in popularity when the PC version deploys October 24th, Bungie is also working on new DLC and expansions for the game, the first of which is expected to give players new missions and locations on the planet Mercury. Expect that in the coming months. The latest adaptation of a Stephen King novel has that it thing at the box office. The new horror movie It had a massive record-breaking debut at the box office this weekend. It earned $123 million domestically and a total of $185 million worldwide, giving it the biggest fall opening in history and also the biggest opening for a horror movie ever. It's also the second best opening ever for an R-rated film, behind only Deadpool. It had a production budget of just $35 million, and the huge box office success is good news for the entire film industry following a massive slump at the box office this past summer. This makes it likely that we'll be seeing more new film adaptations of other Stephen King books, and pretty much guarantees that Warner Brothers will greenlight the planned sequel to It. That will be based on the second half of the novel, which sees adult versions of the same characters reunite to destroy the It entity once and for all. Since the sinister shape-shifting creature emerges every 27 years, you can expect the sequel to take place during the present day. And now that it's a huge money-making franchise, don't be surprised if big Hollywood stars play the adult versions of the characters. You can catch my review of It with my pal Johnny Millennium on our Film Fury channel. The Sega Dreamcast celebrated its 18th birthday over the weekend, but you don't need to dust off your old system to play two of its best games. It looks like the first two Shenmue games might be getting re-released on current-gen systems. No official announcements have been made, but listings for a Shenmue 1 and 2 double pack have begun appearing on several online retailers, indicating that a re-release is on the way. This makes sense given that the highly anticipated Shenmue 3 is currently in the works for the PS4 and PC, and it wouldn't be the first re-release for one of the games. The original Shenmue 2, first released on the Dreamcast in 2001, was ported to the original Xbox in 2002, which was actually the only official version released here in North America. As for what we can expect from the new versions of the games, Sega registered the domain ShenmueHD.com earlier this year, indicating that they'll likely be getting new and better HD graphics. We'll let you know when new details are revealed. As for Shenmue 3, that's slated to launch on the PS4 and PC next year. And before we go, we'd like to take a few moments to reflect on the life and legacy of comic book author Len Wein, who sadly passed away yesterday at the age of 69. Wein is most famous for co-creating Marvel's clawed mutant Wolverine, along with other X-Men characters like Nightcrawler, Storm, and Colossus. He created so many X-Men characters because he helped revive the entire X-Men series in the late 70s, turning it into the popular comic line that eventually became the huge transmedia franchise that it is today. Len Wein also had a notable career at DC Comics. He co-created DC's Swamp Thing and Suicide Squad leader Amanda Waller, and served as editor on Watchmen, one of the most influential graphic novels ever published. Len Wein was inducted into the Eisner Comic Book Hall of Fame in 2008, honoring the impact he's had on comics and storytelling in general. Along with Wolverine, many of his creations have been adapted into films and television shows, and he even worked on some of those adaptations himself. We caught up with him at the massive San Diego Comic-Con back in 2010, where we asked him about adapting his books and characters into other mediums.
You need to work for the medium you're working in. I always say that because I've adapted much of my own stuff over the years to television and other mediums from comics. And I change what has to be changed to be part and proper for the medium. The very first script I wrote out of comics was an episode of Batman, the animated series, where they asked me to adapt one of my own stories. And they were very leery. They didn't want to pay me the full page rate. We only have this one episode available just in case. And I did the script and I made a lot of changes. And they said, "You change all the stuff." I said, "Yeah, that stuff worked great in comics. This works better for animation." And they said, "You want to do more?" And I wrote a half dozen episodes of the show. You know, you have to be willing to adjust to the medium.
Because Len Wein was in comics for so long, he got to see how the industry evolved and changed over the years as it became more and more mainstream. The best example of this was the rising popularity and size of Comic-Con itself.
When it started, there was maybe 1,000 people. It was at the El Cortez Hotel, and it was what they used to call in science fiction terms a relaxicon. You hung out. The industry was not here, television and film and all of the game companies. Well, many of them didn't exist back then, but it was just 1,000 friends getting together and hanging out for a weekend. We'd sit by the pool, we'd talk, I'd see artists and writers I hadn't seen all year, and we'd just share things. Now it's business. Now I go to other conventions to relax. I come here to promote whatever new product I have that year, to see old friends still, but usually I only see them going, "Hi, bye," and they're gone. I mean, there are people I never see at all during the weekend because, you know, it's 150,000 of my closest friends here.
Len didn't think that the rising popularity and saturation of Comic-Con and the comic industry was bad, though. He looked at all the adaptations and reinterpretations of his books as a good thing.
I think anything that supports the comic medium is a wonderful thing because we become somewhat insular. They're really the only places to buy comics these days mostly are comic book shops. You can't go down to the corner like you did when I was a kid and just pick up the new comic books. So I love the fact that other things promote them. And I love the fact that I've done enough things to get promoted. I mean, I wear my resume. You know, Swamp Thing and the X-Men, and these are all my characters, and they've all been movies and television series and video games. And I'm a very lucky man.
Since his passing yesterday, there has been a huge outpouring of fond remembrances and condolences from the entire entertainment industry. We'd like to offer ours as well to the family and friends of Len Wein. And that wraps us up for the rundown. Remember, if you want to learn more about game design, visit our friends at VFS.edu. We'll be back again tomorrow with a brand new episode for you. In the meantime, check out some of the other cool content we've made. And if you like it, hit subscribe, okay?